Welcome, soccer friend, to the magical world of Soccer Bedtime Stories, where dreams and goals come together. I'm your host, Tomek, and I'm here to accompany you on a journey through the stories of some of the greatest players, games, and tournaments as you drift off to sleep. If this is your first time visiting our soccer dream world, and you enjoy the story, we welcome you to follow and subscribe to listen to all the stories in our library. If you are a returning soccer dreamer, we encourage you to review, comment, star, and like the stories you love most. Your feedback and ideas help us get better and help to expand our soccer dreaming community. Please reach out to us. It's as easy as a pass to a friend. You can just email us at soccerbedtimestories@gmail.com. Enjoy the story, sleep well, and dream big. Hello there, soccer friend. Take a deep breath, snuggle up in a cozy blanket. Let's step into the magical world of football. Picture it, a single man, short in stature, yet with legs as thick as tree trunks, a mischievous smile and dark curly hair. Picture this man on the fields where the grass is green and the crowds are loud. Picture him as he changes the sport we love and adore. Let's close our eyes, relax, and get ready to embark on an unforgettable adventure that will fill our dreams with wonder and excitement. Once upon a World Cup, a Diego Maradona story. Once upon a time in the land of Mexico, the grandest of all football tournaments was about to take place. It was the World Cup, where the best teams from all over the globe gathered to play the beautiful game of football. The excitement in the air was electric, and the sun shone brightly over the green fields of Estadio Azteca. These two mighty teams were preparing to battle. The crowd roared like 1,000 lions, not three, their cheers echoing through the stadium. Flags waved in the breeze, and the colors of blue and white from Argentina and red and white from England filled the stands. Among the players on the field, two stood out as leaders of their teams. Diego Maradona, the fearless captain of Argentina, and Gary Lineker, the goal-scoring prodigy of England. Diego stood in the center of the field, looking around at the crowd. He could feel their energy, their hope, their belief in him. For Diego, this game was more than just football. It was about pride, honor, and the chance to do something truly magical. He wasn't nervous. No, Diego had been dreaming of this moment for as long as he could remember. As a boy, he would practice for hours in the streets of his hometown, kicking a ball made of old socks, imagining that one day he would play on the biggest stage in the world. Now, that dream was about to come true. The whistle blew, the game began. The ball zipped across the field with players from both teams chasing it, passing it, and trying to score. England started strong, with Gary leading the charge. His teammates passed the ball quickly, moving it toward the Argentine goal. The crowd gasped as England came close to scoring, but Argentina's goalkeeper, Neri, was ready. He jumped like a cat and grabbed the ball, saving the day. Not today, Gary, Diego thought to himself as he watched from the middle of the field. Argentina quickly regained control of the ball. Diego dashed forward, his feet moving faster than lightning. He dribbled past one, then two, then three English players. The crowd was on their feet, cheering wildly as Diego made his way toward the goal. But just as he was about to shoot, an English defender kicked the ball away. The game went on like this, back and forth, with both teams fighting with all their hearts. Every player ran as fast as they could, their feet barely touching the ground. The ball seemed to have a life of its own, dancing between players as if it knew the importance of this match. At halftime, the score was still 0-0. Both teams were playing their best, but neither had managed to break through. The second half began, the tension thick, like a storm waiting to break. Both teams knew that one mistake, or perhaps one moment of brilliance, could change everything. Diego stood near the halfway line, his eyes sharp, focused. He had played countless games in his life, but this one felt different, as if something magical was about to happen. 6 minutes into the second half, Diego spotted his change. The ball was passed toward him, and he immediately saw an opening. With a quick burst of speed, he dribbled past an English defender, his feet moving like they were dancing to a rhythm only he could hear. The ball seemed to glide effortlessly under his control, responding to his every touch. He passed the ball to his teammate, Jorge Valdano, expecting a return pass, but something went wrong. An English player, Steve Hodge, was there and he tried to clear the ball. Instead of sending it away, though, Hodge sliced it, and the ball spun high into the air, its path unpredictable. Diego kept his eyes locked on the ball as it rose like a bird into the sky, arching back toward the penalty box. Time seemed to slow down. Time seemed to stop. The crowd, thousands upon thousands of fans, held their breath. A moment of silence, it appeared. The ball was hanging in the air like a glowing orb, waiting for someone to seize the moment. As Diego sprinted forward, he noticed the English goalkeeper, Peter Shilton, rushing out of his goal. Shilton was tall, towering over Diego by several inches, perhaps a foot. As he leapt up, ready to punch the ball away, Diego knew he had to act fast. In just a split second, he made his decision, a decision that would ring through all time, a decision full of controversy, beauty for some, horror and ugliness for others. Shilton reached out with his fist. Diego jumped too. But instead of using his head to meet the ball, Diego extended his left hand. Just for a moment. So fast that it almost didn't seem real, so fast that some didn't even see it. The ball made contact with his hand, and with a soft tap, it floated past Shilton and into the goal. For a moment, the huge Estadio Azteca stood silent. It was as if the entire stadium, the entire world watching, couldn't believe what had just happened. Then, all at once, the crowd erupted in a roar so loud it seemed to shake the ground. Diego looked around, almost in disbelief himself. Had the referee seen it? Had the linesman noticed? No whistles blew, no flags were raised, the goal stood. Diego's heart pounded in his chest, not from the run, but from the excitement. He knew he had scored in a way that was, well, unusual. His teammates were confused at first, unsure whether to celebrate or question what they had just witnessed. But Diego knew what to do. "Come on," he shouted, waving them over with a wide grin. "Come celebrate, we've done it." His teammates ran over, their confusion turning into joy as they hugged and cheered. Diego could barely contain his smile. He knew, deep down, that what he had just done would be talked about for years, maybe forever. Later, in the locker room, when the reporters would ask him about the goal, Diego would simply say, with a mischievous twinkle in his eye, It was a little with the head of Diego, and a little with the hand of God. Diego's adventure was far from over in the game. The crowd had barely settled from the shock of the first goal when just 4 minutes later, Diego would do something even more extraordinary. Something that would be remembered for all time and place even the hand of God in its shadow. It began innocently enough with the ball rolling toward Diego in his own half of the field. He could see the English players, their eyes fixed on him, their feet ready to block his every move. Diego was calm. He felt the ball at his feet, took a deep breath. He began to run. He began the run. At first, it was just a few steps, but as he moved, the ball seemed to stick to his feet like it was tied with the invisible string. Diego's heart raced, not from fear, but from the thrill of the chase. The first English player, Peter Beardsley, lunged towards him, but with the flick of his foot, Diego danced around him. The crowd gasped. Diego kept going, picking up speed, his feet moving faster and faster. Another English player, Peter Reid, charged at him. Diego was quicker. He cut to the left, leaving Reid behind as if he were standing still. Now the crowd was on their feet, their eyes wide in disbelief. Could he really make it? Could he score from so far away? Next came Fenwick. Diego saw him coming out of the corner of his eyes. Fenwick reached out, trying to grab Diego's shirt, but Diego twisted his body just in time, slipping past him like water flowing around a rock. His balance was perfect, his control flawless. Ahead of him was Terry Butcher, a defender known for his strength and determination. Butcher wasn't going to let Diego pass easily. He threw himself in front of Diego. Diego wasn't just any player. With a quick sidestep and a burst of speed, Diego was past him too. The goal was now in sight. The only one left was Shilton, the English goalkeeper. Shilton braced himself, his eyes locked on Diego, ready to dive. But Diego had already made up his mind. He feinted left, tricking Shilton into diving that way, and then with the slightest of touches, he sent the ball rolling into the opposite side of the net. The entire stadium seemed to explode with sound. The crowd roared with such joy, such disbelief, that it felt like the ground was shaking. Diego had done it. He had dribbled past 5 English players, starting from his own half, and scored what would later be called the goal of the century. Diego's teammates rushed toward him, lifting him into the air as if he were a hero in the grandest of fairy tales. The crowd chanted his name, Diego, Diego, Diego. Their voices echoed across the stadium, across all of Mexico, across the whole of the world. For Diego, it was a moment he had dreamed about his entire life. He had always believed that magic could happen on the football field, and now he made it happen. It wasn't just a goal, it was an adventure, a journey, a story that would be told for generations. As he stood there, surrounded by his teammates, Diego looked out at the sea of cheering fans. He smiled, knowing that in that moment, he wasn't just playing a game, he was creating a legend. The crowd was still buzzing from Diego's second goal, the goal of the century. Fans all around the stadium were on their feet, cheering and celebrating what they had just witnessed. While Argentina celebrated, England refused to give up. Lineker gathered the English team together. He knew they still had time. He knew they could still fight. "Come on, lads," Gary called out, his voice full of determination. "We're not finished yet." Gary looked around at his teammates, their faces mix of exhaustion and frustration, but deep down they still had the fire in their hearts. They had come too far to give up now. The English team pushed forward, their legs heavy, but their will strong. They had nothing to lose and everything to gain. The Argentine defense, which had stood firm for most of the game, now faced wave after wave of English attack. John Barnes, England's speedy winger, had been brought into the game as a substitute. He had fresh legs, and with only a few minutes left, he began to race up and down the left wing like a lightning bolt. Every time he touched the ball, he sent it soaring into the Argentine penalty area, hoping to find his teammates. With each cross, the tension in the stadium grew thicker. England's players, like lions on the hunt, charged into the box, desperate for a goal that would give them hope. The Argentine defenders were strong, but they were growing tired. The energy they had used to stop Diego from the English side were catching up to them. The roar of the English fans could be heard louder now as their team kept pushing forward. Then, it happened. Inevitable, really. Barnes sprinted down the left side of the field with the ball at his feet. His pace was incredible, and no one could catch him. The Argentine defenders scrambled to block his path, but Barnes had made up his mind. With one swift movement, he curled the ball into the box. It was a perfect cross, the kind that gives strikers like Gary Lineker a chance to shine. Lineker was ready. He timed his run perfectly, slipping between the Argentine defenders like a shadow. The ball seemed to slow down as it floated toward him, and Gary leaped into the air. His head met the ball with a firm thud, and it flew past Argentina's goalkeeper, Neri Pumpido, and into the back of the net. The English fans exploded with joy. Their team had done it. They had scored. The scoreboard now read, Argentina 2, England 1. There was still time left, and hope flickered like a small flame in the hearts of English players and fans. They believed that they could equalize, that they could take the game to extra time, and maybe, just maybe, pull off a miraculous comeback. Lineker quickly grabbed the ball back from the net and ran back to the center circle, urging his teammates to press forward. The English team could sense the shift in momentum. Argentina had been dominating, but now the pressure was on them. England was coming back, and they were coming back strong. The Argentine defenders tightened their ranks. They knew that if England scored again, their dreams of winning the World Cup could slip away. Diego, who had been celebrating his 2 incredible goals, now found himself dropping deeper into his own half, helping his teammates defend. He knew this wasn't just a game anymore. It was a battle for survival. With only minutes left, England continued the relentless assault. Crosses came flying into the box from all angles, and each time, Argentina barely managed to clear them away. The tension was almost unbearable. The Argentine fans were on the edge of their seats, praying that their team could hold on. Then, in one final heart-stopping moment, England came close to scoring again. John Barnes once more raced down the wing and sent in another perfect cross. This time it wasn't Gary who got it first, it was his teammate Terry Butcher. Butcher stretched out his leg, hoping to tap the ball into the net, but at the last second, an Argentine defender slid in and knocked the ball away. The ball hit the inside of the post. It bounced out. The entire stadium gasped. England had been so close. So close. The referee's whistle blew, cutting through the air like a bell signaling the end of a great battle. The game was over. Argentina had won. The score stood at 2-1 in their favor, and they had secured their place in the semifinals. The Argentine players collapsed to the ground in a mix of exhaustion and joy, while the English players stood in silence, their hearts heavy with disappointment. Diego, still catching his breath from the final minutes of the game, stood in the center of the field. He looked around at his teammates, some of whom were already hugging and celebrating, while others were kneeling in prayer, thanking the heavens for their victory. The crowd erupted in song, their voices soaring into the white and blue sky like birds released from a cage. But Diego felt something deeper in that moment. It wasn't just the thrill of winning. It was the weight of everything that had led him to this point. As he stood there, sweat dripping down his face, he thought back to the streets of Villa Fiorito, the humble neighborhood where he had grown up. He remembered playing football with his friends, using a ball he made from old rags and dreaming of one day becoming a champion. And now, here he was, Not just a champion, but a hero. No, not just a hero, a legend. Diego looked up at the crowd, thousands of faces staring back at him. He could see the Argentine fans waving their flags, singing their hearts out. For them, this wasn't just a football match. It was a moment of pride, a moment of joy for their country. It was a reminder that, even in the face of adversity, they could triumph. As the Argentine players celebrated around him, Diego walked toward the English players. He found Lineker standing quietly looking down at the ground. He had played his heart out and he had scored a goal that gave England hope, but in the end, it hadn't been enough. Diego nodded. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The game had spoken for itself. As Diego turned to walk back to his teammates, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. He had scored 2 of the most famous goals in football history, and he knew that the world would remember them forever. But beyond the goals, beyond the victory, there was something more important to Diego. It was the knowledge that he had done this not just for himself, but for his country, for the people who believed in him. He thought about the kids back in Argentina, watching the game from their homes, dreaming of one day being like him. He knew that somewhere in the dusty streets of Buenos Aires, there were children kicking footballs made of socks, imagining themselves scoring goals just like Diego had today. A little Lionel, perhaps, or a little Rodri running and passing and scoring. And in that moment, Diego smiled. He realized that his victory wasn't just about winning the World Cup. It was about inspiring the next generation of dreamers. The Argentine players gathered in the middle of the field, forming a circle. They lifted their arms, and together they sang their national anthem, their voices filled with pride. Diego joined them, his heart swelling with emotion. This was what it meant to be part of something bigger than yourself. To fight not just for a trophy, but for a country, for a dream. As the sun began to set over the stadium, casting a golden glow over the field, Diego knew that this was the day he would never forget. It wasn't just the day he had scored the hand of God. No, it was the day the goal of the century was scored. It was the day he had made history. And in doing so, he had given hope to millions of people. With that thought, Diego walked off the field, ready for the next adventure. Sleep well and dream big, soccer friend.
Hey everyone, it's Tomek from Soccer Bedtime Stories. If you enjoy our stories and think they are worth your hard-earned money, please consider supporting us on Buzzsprout at bit.ly/Soccer Bedtime Stories. That's bit.ly/Soccer Bedtime Stories. Or just look for us on Buzzsprout. Just $3 a month will give you special access to fan art, newsletters, shoutouts, and other community benefits. By supporting the show, you support us and allow us to keep our show ad-free and accessible for soccer-loving kids and adults around the globe. As always, we love to hear from you. Continue to reach out, leave reviews. Hope you enjoy the story. Sleep well and dream big, friend.